Hey guys, it's Ryder, or Ryder24, and I'm back with the second part of my EWOW video diary, documenting my run in this camp. If you're not sure what EWOW is, then you can either watch the first part of this series, or EWOW 0A to get a rough idea. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get back into talking about my personal experience with EWOW. I realized a little bit after posting my video diary for EWOWs 1 and 2 that I forgot to talk about some points that I wanted to bring up in that video, such as my thoughts on the live system, along with my thoughts on the amount of non-respondents in future rounds of EWOW. So, I shall address these topics before we dive any further. First off, the addition of lives is a great change. I'll keep this somewhat brief because a lot of the points I'll make here have already been made by Kiri himself, along with our EWOW documenters. To start, it gives people a chance to actually learn from their mistakes, and be able to, in my opinion, have more fun than if they had one bad response early on and got eliminated. Who knows if any of the contestants who were eliminated in the early episodes of EWOW could have gone on to have the same stats as, say, a Joseph Howard or a Mr. Tweester if they had just gotten a chance to learn from their past failures. Take 12-3 for example. The last two safe spots in 12-3 were earned by Sumnerd the Pie Guy and Green Tree. Those two went on to place 14th and 10th overall in 12 respectively, yet they almost suffered the fate of being forgotten entirely in the 12 EWOW community lore. Moving on to the issue of non-respondents, there were two big things that I wanted to mention. My personal thoughts on the penalty to non-respondents, and how it's changed since then, and communication. I'm not saying that non-respondents should have been immediately eliminated, but I initially thought that a back-to-back rule should have been put in place, where if a contestant failed to respond to back-to-back prompts, they should be eliminated, regardless of their current life count. Rather draconian, I know, but I thought that the people who likely weren't going to respond any further should just be cut out as soon as possible, so we could whittle it down to the serious competitors earlier. As I saw it, it was screwing over some of the people who did respond, as the standards for gaining and retaining your lives were raised by those no-shows, and I wanted to see the competition narrow those margins down to a more accurate degree sooner. Nowadays, after seeing certain community testimony of people who forgot about the show for a bit, but are now back and have either tried to respond to prompts but got eliminated due to losing 2 of their lives, or are still in, granted it's not many, but still, I've walked back on that thought since then. Which brings me to the issue that I think has amplified the problem of non-participation in the early EWOW prompts, though it was bound to happen. Communication, or lack thereof. Now, I don't wish to be too hard on Kiri here, because he really does not need to be running this camp at all, and knowing that it's a for funsies thing, and that he could be doing a lot of other things that will provide much more value, especially monetarily for him, I stepped into this fully aware that this would be a side project that might get put on the back burner at times. I just wish that more of what was going on with the camp was conveyed, at least in the outside community. If I had to guess, some communication may occur on the 12 Central Discord server, or wherever people talk. If you want to let me know where that is, thank you. But yeah, as someone who is currently not a part of that, I'm sort of in the dark, but I've been consistently paying attention to check for new EWOW episodes. I'm only still here really because I'm not normal about this camp. But yeah, if I had anything I could talk about in terms of improvement, my only real qualm is with communication on how certain things are coming along in regards to episodes. Otherwise, I have no real problems with the camp itself. That may be a really big thing for me to have a problem with, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm still having fun, so that's all that really matters to me at the end of the day. Okay, rambling over, now we can move on to EWOW 3. The third EWOW prompt was topically relevant, as the third round will mark the first batch of eliminated contestants, as a significant portion of people were down to their last life, whether from poor performance, or simply not responding. The third prompt was, our first EWOW friends will be eliminated this round. What does the EWOW afterlife look like? I would say this round, thus far, branded the most diverse range of ideas that I've had for responses so far, as it went from melancholy, to trying to put a more optimistic spin on a sad fate, to trying to be more humorous with my response. Some ideas I thought of were referencing the tiny loser chamber from BFDI, TLC for short, though I thought it was both a bit too much of a low-hanging fruit, along with me just not being able to come up with anything I deemed good enough off the cuff. I also thought of a joke that the eliminated contestants are just reincarnated into YouTube comments, like they got isekai'd or something, I don't know. I also just typed out the idea of the books being burned, but ditched that pretty quickly, not even really thinking of a potential alternate response for that line of thought. Lastly, I thought that since the characters that represent us in EWOW are books, I could go for some sort of clever nod to that idea, stating that the eliminated contestants are a footnote in the saga that is EWOW. Looking back on it, I actually really liked this idea, but I don't think I felt like the words clicked into place for me, so I looked elsewhere. I also had another more silly alternate response where it was like a kid in detention having to write a message on the chalkboard over and over again, with the message being, "I will respond in 11 words." At the end of the day, I wanted the response to connect to wisdom in some way, but I guess I wanted to put a more positive spin on it and have the mindset that the eliminated contestants didn't lack wisdom, and that the wisdom they revealed was merely misunderstood. A bit risky when some of the wisdom in question was some one-word responses, plus people just flat out not responding, but I felt confident regardless. Again, never thought of any opportunities for puns, and man, I could only dream of thinking of something like bookshelves or Perga's story. Once again, props to the people who were able to think like that. Anyways, this was the first round in which I have alternate responses to show, so here's a flash of every response I thought for this prompt right here. Anyways, it's time to move on to how I did. With my response of, a diverse group of people united by their collectively misunderstood wisdom, I managed to sign my best overall placement so far in this competition, ranking 635th out of 8,062 total responses, with a raw score of 74.91%, a standard deviation of 16.36%, my lowest yet by a good margin, and this response outranked 92.13% of other responses. I was a mere 3.35% in raw score off from making it into the prize zone this round, which would have given me my first extra life. So close, yet so far. Yeah, not getting a prize kinda sucks, but I was still really happy with this placement, and it kinda boosted my confidence a bit, to be honest. However, I do think I could have made my response just a tad better, maybe replacing a couple words here and there, and what I feel like has been a bit of an oversight on my part throughout these first few rounds, has been trying too hard to make my response use more complex words, as I felt like eloquence would help more, and while it can, you can also do just as well with good wordplay, and being clever with simpler words. Not that I want to shift my style of responses entirely, I'm definitely comfortable with what I do now, but I think that's a part of my responses that I should try to focus on utilizing more in future prompts, if possible. And that's just about everything I wanted to talk about as it pertains to EWOW 3. But before I go, I just wanted to close with a couple of things. Firstly, a special shout out to Gray's book Sona Maker, as I used it to create the reaction images I'm using for this series. Yes, I'm sticking with the default book for now, I like these colors. The only thing that I kinda want to add is a bit of stuff outside of the bookmaker, such as our outside images. The way I've envisioned it is that I could put in a couple of things that connect to my major interests, mostly thinking about Splatoon and Puyo right now, to help create my own sort of identity. For example, in my character's right hand, they'd be holding up a green Puyo here, and on my book, I thought of using the badges of some of the weapons I've earned 4 stars of freshness on in Splatoon 3, like their stickers. Once I get that down, and I'm able to find a way to get that into an image that is transparent, so there's no background when it shows up in EWOW episodes, you'll likely see my new book Sona pop up there, so stay tuned for that maybe. Lastly, I wanted to talk about a point that some people made after EWOW 3, which was the AI. I didn't explain this in my previous EWOW diary video, so allow me to explain for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. Among the 16,607 contestants in the beginning of the season, 100 of them were actually secretly AI, and responses for them were collected through asking the prompt to ChatGPT. Carrie had previously said that when AI contestants were eliminated, their identities would be unmasked so that the humans could know how they were doing, as it's the real people's goal to ensure that no AI ends up in the top 100. However, there was none of that after EWOW 3, which led people to think that Carrie either forgot to do so, or more likely, no AI were eliminated. Some people expressed disappointment at this, but if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think we should be that surprised. Keep in mind that the AI responses are collected through ChatGPT, so as long as someone on the EWOW team, however large that may be, is actively going to it for responses, there's no chance that an AI won't be a perfect attendant in terms of responding to prompts. So all the AI had to do to survive to EWOW 4 was place in the top 51% of all responses once out of 3 attempts. And I'm gonna be real, some of the responses, in the nicest possible way, well, I'll let this clip do the talking.
And let's keep this here. Some of them were not very good.
So anyways, I definitely think that a lot of the AI will have a much easier time surviving in the earlier game, but as the amount of contestants whittle down, the quality of the responses will get higher, and I think it will become easier to tell which responses were made by AI. And so I expect that by about EWOW 8 or 9, the AI will start to drop like flies. Too long didn't listen version of that, I don't think we should be concerned yet. But anyways, that's it for my personal documentation of EWOW 3. I hope you enjoyed this video, and are looking forward to my video diary for EWOW 4.